All right, everybody. So we have another Halo Infinite Forge tutorial, and this time I'm doing another viewer request. I have a viewer who is asking me how they can get an object to move through another object, and there are a couple limitations here, but essentially what this viewer would like to do is have an object simply pass through other objects. So the limitations here that I'm referring to, if we go into the object properties, first of all, you'll need to make sure that this object mode is dynamic because you'll need to refer to this object in a script. And the reason that we need to script around this object that we want to pass through another object is that this object is not going to respond to physics in a normal way. So what we have to do here to make an object phase through another object is we have to set this physics property here to phased. Now, when we do that, that means that this object is no longer going to behave to traditional physics. So that means that it's not going to have things like velocity, it's not going to have any of that calculated for itself, which means we have to move that object. So in order to move that object, what I've done here is I've just got a simple script, and I'm going to go into Node Graph by holding Q, and then I'm going to click on Node Graph. And here, what I'm doing is when the game starts, I'm firing an event called move object transform. The object which we are moving here is the object property. So this is where you set the object you would like to move. Now we have this other property here called destination object, and that's where we want to move the object. Now there are a lot of different ways that we can move objects. We can also translate an object to a point, but here we're just doing move object to transform. And there's other clever ways that you could go about moving your objects in your scene, but they will have to be a little bit more programmatic, a little bit more animated with code, is one way that I'd like to put it. But also here we have the duration in seconds, which is how long it'll take this object to move to this transform. And when we say transform, we just kind of mean position in general. The two different things between that is that a transform can contain multiple pieces of information, like the position, the rotation, and the scale, typically speaking. But here what we've got is we have this object reference to the soccer ball, which is the object we are moving, and then I have this UNSC wall 14. That is the object that we are going to be moving the soccer ball towards. And for the movement curve, we just have an ease out sine wave. It's not really important here, but if we go ahead and jump in, I'll show you what it looks like. So we just have, if I can find it, oh, it looks like it already happened. So let's try this again real quick so you can see it. And there it goes. Our object phases through the other object. And you see how it gradually comes to rest here? Well, that's because that's that curve that we're using. So if I go back in here and just to kind of demonstrate what this looks like, if I change this to, let's do ease in out exponential. You see that? See how its movement starts to become exponential at a certain point? But anyways, that's just how you move objects through other objects. Unfortunately, like I said, a little bit of a limitation here, but you got to work with what you can. And there's different ways that you can go about moving this object. You could have multiple targets here set up like this. And you know, in your script you could say move this object from that transform to this one, to this one, to this one, and then back to here. And you could make these objects here invisible, possibly. There's just a lot of different ways that you could do this. And you could also just use positions. So instead of using the move object to transform here, we could just do something a little different, which is translate object to point. And then we no longer need an object, a destination object. We could just give it a position. So what we could do is just figure out what that position is in the world, and then we could store that position here as our own value, and then just move our objects around the world kind of programmatically, if, you know, if you'd like to say. But alrighty, well, I'm going to keep this one short. I just kind of wanted to show you how to phase objects through each other. So if you have any more questions, please let me know. I'd love to help. And thank you so much for watching.